They descended in silence, slipping beneath the trembling silver skin of the ocean as the last fragment of daylight scattered across the surface. For months, the team had trained for this moment, an underwater exhibition unlike anything attempted before, a choreography drawn not for a stage or arena, but for the vast shifting floor of the open sea. The divers entered as if crossing a threshold into another world, where sound faded into a soft pulse and light moved like a living creature, bending through pillars of turquoise and dissolving into darker hues as they sank deeper. Each breath from their tanks echoed quietly, their bodies framed by rising columns of bubbles that drifted upward like tiny lanterns escaping to the sky. The ocean floor revealed itself slowly, a wide plain of pale sand shaped into gentle ripples as if brushed by an unseen hand. Around it, isolated boulders, small coral heads, and scattered patches of seagrass formed a natural amphitheater. It was here, 20 meters below the sunlit surface, that the divers would perform their series of synchronized movements, a flowing sequence meant to capture both the fragility and majesty of the marine realm. The team believed that to dance underwater was to yield to the environment, to acknowledge that gravity, balance, and motion obeyed different laws here. Every gesture demanded patience. Every movement had to harmonize with the water's slow resistance. They positioned themselves in a wide arc, hovering just above the sand. Their wetsuits caught faint streaks of light descending from the surface, and for a moment, they looked like silhouettes suspended between two worlds. The lead diver lifted a hand, signaling the others to prepare. This choreography, months of planning, hundreds of hours of rehearsal, was designed to highlight the silent elegance of human movement in an environment where control was both essential and elusive. The first movement began with synchronized descents. Each diver allowed the weight of their gear to bring them gently down until their fins kissed the sand. As they landed, they raised one arm slowly, as though greeting the ocean itself. The gesture created a drifting cloud of sand grains that floated upward, shimmering and then fading. Even this tiny plume became part of the performance, a visual reminder that every action here had consequence, that even the smallest displacement lingered in the water before returning to stillness. The second sequence involved a series of slow, spirals rotations of the entire body while maintaining balance and distance from the others. It was a test of precision and spatial awareness. The spirals looked effortless, but each diver was maintaining constant micro-adjustments, using subtle fin kicks or slight shifts of the torso to avoid drifting too far in any direction. The spirals formed overlapping patterns, like swirling galaxies emerging from the ocean floor. The light filtering through the water caught their movements, creating halos around their bodies and rendering the moment almost surreal. Nearby, a pair of curious reef fish paused in their slow grazing to watch. Their bright colors created sharp contrasts against the neutral tones of the seabed. It was as if the fish themselves had become spectators to the performance, drifting close and then darting away. The divers moved into their next formation, a V-shaped wedge, their bodies aligned in perfect symmetry, each diver anchoring the shape with calm, controlled breathing. The lead diver began a forward glide, and the formation followed, maintaining distance so precisely that the wedge never broke. Clouds of fine sand rose behind them, tracing the gentle wake of their motion. The choreography shifted to a vertical element. The divers tilted upward, bodies straight, arms at their sides. With a unified, strong kick, they propelled themselves upward several meters, their bodies rising like columns through the water. At the peak of the ascent, the divers paused, suspended in place, then slowly inverted, turning upside down so their heads pointed toward the sand below. This inversion required immense balance. Any sudden movement would send a diver drifting off course, but they held the line, hovering in a perfect inverted row, as their bubbles trailed downward in irregular streams. Returning to the seafloor, they transitioned into a circular formation. Each diver placed a hand lightly on the sand, using the contact point to stabilize their position. The circle symbolized unity, not only among the team, but between humans and the ocean environment. Once the circle was set, the divers began a wave motion. Starting with the diver closest to the remaining sunlight, a ripple passed through their bodies. First the shoulders, then the hips, then the legs, propagating around the circle in a fluid, continuous chain. The motion resembled the slithering of deep-sea creatures or the swaying of seagrass in a gentle current. It was hypnotic, a reminder of the interconnected patterns woven throughout marine life. The documentary crew, who filmed from a respectful distance, captured the scene with wide panoramic shots. Their cameras drifted silently around the formation, their lights muted to avoid disturbing the natural colors of the seafloor. Underwater filming demanded patience and precision, just as the dancers required. The camera operators had rehearsed, alongside the divers on land, developing coordinated routes to follow the choreography without stirring up sand or interrupting the rhythms of the performance. The divers now prepared for the most technically challenging movement, the synchronized arc lift. This required each diver to push off the sand simultaneously, rising in a slow, controlled curve, arms extending outward like wings. The arc lift created a breathtaking visual, 12 bodies moving as one, their arcs overlapping but never touching, like a school of manta rays gliding in formation. The lift demanded perfect timing. Even a half-second delay would break the illusion of unity. But after months of training, the divers executed the arc flawlessly. The cameras recorded them against the shifting mosaic of sunlight, capturing the majestic geometry of their movement. When the divers touched down again, small swirls of sand drifted upward. They waited for the sediment to settle before beginning the next movement, which involved an intricate pattern of intersecting paths. Each diver glided diagonally across the formation, passing within inches of one another. It was a moment that tested trust as much as technique. They relied on their spatial mapping and rehearsed instincts to navigate the crossing lines. Watching from above, the pattern resembled a woven tapestry coming to life, threads of motion braiding and unbraiding without a single collision. A gentle current swept through the sight, bringing with it a faint sway of the surrounding seagrass. The divers adapted instantly, adjusting angles and fin strokes to maintain their positions. Their ability to move in harmony with the water was part of what made the performance so extraordinary. On land, dancers resist or push against gravity. Underwater, they collaborate with it, allowing buoyancy and drift to become part of the choreography. The next movement embraced this partnership with the environment. The divers loosened their formations and began a free-flowing drift, letting the current guide their bodies while maintaining artistic control. Their movements became softer, less symmetrical, more like the natural motions of marine life. Some drifted forward with slow, smooth fin strokes. Others rolled gently to one side, allowing the water to carry them a meter or two before righting themselves again. It was a passage inspired by the effortless gliding of turtles and rays. As they drifted, dustings of sand shifted beneath them, creating ghost-like trails. Eventually, the divers returned to a more structured formation, arranging themselves in 3 parallel lines. This final movement symbolized the reassertion of human order within the fluidity of the ocean. The lines advanced slowly, arms extended forward, bodies aligned with flawless precision. When they reached the center of the sandy plain, the divers stopped, raised both arms, and held still. The stillness was as dramatic as any motion, an acknowledgement of the quiet power of the ocean.